Hello, everybody. We're live, and you just showed up like 3 seconds ago.
Yes, I did.
You showed up 3 seconds ago. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Primetime Aquatics live stream, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Glad you're here because, as always, you are the coolest people on the face of the earth, and we want to hang out with you. So, yeah, I was just telling everybody in the chat that 2 minutes ago, I was like, okay, we're starting here in a minute, and I got no response.
No.
Are you down there? Because we're upstairs in the studio.
Oh, I'm scaping a tank.
She was scaping a tank. Is this the tank that is going to be part of the Friday video? Perhaps?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. That's a pretty good reason. I suppose that's a good reason. Before we even begin, I want to say Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Happy Thanksgiving Eve.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving for tomorrow. Happy Black Friday after that, and happy I'm really tired after that the rest of the weekend. So, yeah, this is a fun time of the year. Usually what happens, and I don't know how it is in your home, but usually Thanksgiving begins the Christmas movie season. Now, the goal there during Christmas movie season is to watch Christmas Vacation at least 12 to 20 times. I would say it's fair. Right?
On the conservative side.
Yeah, right. I'm just kind of throwing a range out there.
If we're really busy.
Yeah, then maybe we watch it closer to the mid, like 15 or 16 times. We'll watch Alpha solid 6 to 10 times, right?
Absolutely.
I've already, so I have to admit, and I've been cheating on you a little bit. Not with those two movies, but I've actually watched Die Hard 3 times in the last couple weeks.
That's not cheating.
It's a warm-up. Die Hard
movie.
It is absolutely a Christmas movie, and I've already watched it like 3 times because I just wanted to get in the pre-spirit of the holidays. And then what else will we watch? Home Alone. That one's, yes. 3 to 6 times maybe. And then, of course,
White Christmas.
That's a 0 times for me. And then we have to kind of include like Charlie Brown Christmas, the cartoon stuff. And that usually gets like 1 solid watch, usually a lot closer to Christmas, if not on Christmas Day.
Rudolph, Frosty, Santa Claus is coming to town, The Grinch.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about The Grinch, yeah.
What are we missing? I'm sure we're missing something.
We're probably missing some.
Has anybody ever seen Mr. Magoo's Christmas?
I don't even know what that is. Is that the really horrible movie
Magoo.
You made me watch? What was that one?
Somebody had said somewhere that it was really good. Unless I missed something. Or you have
is
to
that the one I just
once.
I walked away and I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't.
Well, you say that to a lot of the movies I watch.
That is also true. So thank you so much for being here. Glad you're here. I know some of you are probably really busy trying to do 5 different things right now, and maybe you just got us on in the background, and that's pretty cool. So you could be thawing out your turkey, cleaning house. We have found that not only are these live streams great for when you're cleaning your fish tanks, which, by the way, if you're hosting a Thanksgiving, you really need to be cleaning those tanks in addition to the rest of the house. So it's like, you're screaming at somebody, make sure you clean the toilet that everybody's going to use. And what are you doing? I'm just down here cleaning my tanks. Thanks for the help, man. So, a lot to do.
TB made a very good point. Christmas in Connecticut. That's an absolute must-watch, usually at least twice.
All right. Never heard of it, but...
Barbara Stanwyck.
I've never heard of that either. Never heard of her.
You would probably know her from, what was the show she was in later? Not Dallas, Falcon Crest? Or,
I didn't watch Falcon Crest, so...
I didn't watch any of the evening soap operas.
To be clear, when I was a kid, Thursday nights were Knots Landing, and then Fridays you had Dukes of Hazzard on at 7.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Dallas came on at 8.
No, that would have been 9 because
no.
8 o'clock was Miami Vice.
Well, then Falcon Crest wasn't that also Friday? That would have come on after Dallas, but that would have clashed. So I'm pretty sure it was. I think you've got your.
But Thursday, Thursday what, or was it Tuesday? Magnum PI and Simon.
That could have been. I don't know. I only really watched the. I don't know why my parents let me watch that. I was a little bitty kid. I'm watching Knots Landing. I'm watching Dallas. I didn't like Falcon Crest, but that's kind of like I'm tapping out. I'm going to bed. I was like 7 years old. I mean, what are you going to do? So anyway, things that we have done this week. Monday we did the Angelfish Buddies. So we're continuing our Buddies series. So Angelfish tank mates. And we had a lot of really good suggestions in that video. I think there's going to be a part 2 coming out there. And I just felt like when we were done, a few fish popped into my brain like right away. And sure enough, y'all were right on it. You're like, what about these? What about these? What about these? What about these? I've had good luck with these. I'm like, yep, those are some other ones we could have mentioned. So there'll be a part 2 for that at some point. And then today is the triple whammy. It's like the triple crown of stuff that we did today. So we went to the OCA this past weekend. We'll talk more about that later. And then because of that, I wanted to kind of give everybody a little OCA, Ohio Cichlid Association extravaganza highlight video. So I put out a little special video today that shows some of the really cool fish that were there. But you also did your video.
Yeah, they went at the same time.
Which, yeah, that was pretty cool. I actually saw a comment in your video that somebody left my video to watch your video. I'm like,
that was John. That was John Wood.
Okay, all right. I suppose that's fine.
He got major points for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it is your day. It is your morning. So I kind of intruded a little bit. I wasn't thinking, I'm like, I'll just put this thing out there. So yeah, we've got the 2 videos that came out today. One on Primetime Aquatics with the OCA highlights, and one on the Smallscape, which was your 10 awesome things that you can get on Amazon.
That's right. Amazon fun.
Yep, that was pretty cool. And then of course we're here now. So that was the 3 things for Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll have the members only video where we will bring you around the fish room, show you some cool things that are happening.
Sweet.
And then Friday we have a cool species profile coming up, a fish that I really like. I know you really like the fish, but shh, it's a secret. You have to wait till Friday. And then Saturday you'll have some crazy thing. I know you always do on Saturday. So
I don't know if I'm going to have a crazy thing or if I'm going to have a very, I may have a very, what do you call it? Professional?
I don't know about that. I mean, can you really use that word?
Like legit? Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Not really, because I don't really go for that vibe.
Yeah. And I mean that in the best possible way. So
there was a comment. Did I screenshot it?
Oh, was that the one? Wait, which one?
I think
was that the sick burn?
It wasn't a sick burn. Maybe I didn't. I think I meant to.
All right. Well, while you're trying to screenshot things, a couple things where we're going to be coming up. The 12th GCCA swap. That is December the 12th. That's a Sunday. If you want to hang out, we'll be bringing some fish. And then I think the next thing after that is Aquashella on the 26th in Orlando in February. So
crazy.
Yeah.
Right around the corner.
That's what's happening. A couple things. I just want to say thank you for a couple reasons. One, thank you to all the people who have gotten this limited edition Christmas shirt. You're not wearing
Mine too. Well, are we going to segue into that yet?
Not yet.
Oh, you said shirts. So
I said I wanted to thank everybody for those of you who ordered the limited edition Christmas shirt.
Yeah.
We've gone through quite a few of those. I think we're getting close to running out here pretty soon, but they were a limited edition, so that's pretty awesome. So they're still around for your wearing pleasure. Also thank you to everyone who came out to the OCA.
Yeah, that was super fun.
It was really cool meeting people. It was a little smaller than it was in 2019, but that is pretty much the way it's been for every kind of vendors or club meeting that we've gone to. I know the GCCA, that we're a part of the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association. Those meetings have been a little bit smaller. The swaps have been a little bit smaller lately. And that's just one of those things where everything has to kind of get on its feet and start going again. But it was a lot of fun. What was your favorite part of the OCA?
Going into the hotel rooms where they just had like stores. My favorite one, and I'm still kicking myself, there was the coolest piece of driftwood pretty much that I ever saw. And yep, I'm like, I'm going to come back. I know I'm going to come back. And I didn't go back. It was the coolest piece of driftwood. It looked like half of a boat that would have sunk, and it was just... So now I have 2 pieces of driftwood that I've gotten away that are going to cause me nightmares. But that was really cool, going into just rooms that are basically like shops. You had a whole wide variety of things. You had anything from, obviously, fish, the better room.
I showed the better room in the video.
Yeah,
so let me just ask you then. So let me ask you this. So that to compensate for the one piece of wood that you missed out on, how many pieces of wood did we actually come home with?
You mean how many bags?
Bags, boxes. I couldn't even keep track. Every time I was pulling stuff out of the back of the thing, I just kept finding boxes. I had no idea you had actually accumulated this much stuff over, mind you, basically a 2-day trip. We
barely fit everything in the car.
Barely.
It was kind of like...
yeah, poor Jenga. Kasha from Creative Pet Keeping. She was stuck on one, like in the back seat.
We
had the third row seats down. We had all the stuff back there, and then we took up the other seat, and she was just kind of packed in between stuff and the side of the car, but
yeah,
she made it work, luckily. So yeah, you got, here's...
I got a decent amount of stuff, but when you say, hey, can you scape a tank? I'm thinking that I should probably have some stuff to scape the tank with.
Fair enough. So just for the record, in case you were curious, I got exactly, from the OCA, I got exactly 0 things. 0.
It's your fault.
But you got lots of stuff. Things. So
I can find stuff wherever I go.
It all balanced out in the end, I suppose. Fish Tank Barn, I just saw a member for 6 months. OCA was a lot of fun. Nice seeing you guys.
It was fun hanging.
So fun side story, little insider tip for you. Fish Tank Barn, Mike, when he's at these places, he's got the kind of like the Aquashella OCA, whatever event we're at, it's like the party van, because he's the one who's responsible for our lives, and he takes us to all the places we need to go. And he's a really good driver, so we trust him, and he just takes us to the things, and he always just seems to know where to go and how to get there. So he's an integral part of our hangout system. So Mike, thanks for all the driving you did. And Liz has been a member for 7 months.
Liz is here too? Yep. What?
Wearing my Christmas shirt for Water Change Wednesday. Well, and Liz has a wonderful fish room. We got to see that while we were there, and so she's going to be sending me some video, because it was
must see.
It was really crazy. We left. So funny story. We left Friday morning, pretty early. So I had to go get Kasha, which she lives like an hour in the opposite direction, and so I was out of the house by 6 a.m. We were back here before 8 a.m. And then our plan was to try to get to the OCA by like 2. Maybe 2:30. Well, I forgot that there was this thing called a time change, and that by the time you get all the way over to Cleveland, they're on Eastern Standard Time, not Central. So by the time we pulled up, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're an hour behind schedule. So we basically, I think we came in, we threw our stuff down. Then I realized I had this big backdrop that I use for some of our swaps and stuff. I brought the big giant 6x8 canvasy thing and forgot the legs. So I've got, like, everybody's like, hey man, what's going on? How you doing? You know, all our buddies from the clubs and stuff, like, hey man. And I'm trying to rush through and get everything done, because I told Liz we would see our fish room at around 4, and it was already like 4:15 Eastern Standard Time. So we're rushing around, we're doing all this stuff. I realized I forget the legs. I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. And so we got the tablecloth down, we got the table set up, and boom, we were out. Went to go check out the fish room. Got an awesome dinner. The meatballs and everything were fantastic.
You're spoiled.
Then we rushed back. No, I dropped you off, you and Kasha off. You guys went and got the room. Then I was on Ohio Fish Rescue's live stream. He's like, hey man, you got to be on the live stream tonight. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yep, we start at 6:30. So I wound up showing up there like 15 minutes late. Was on their live stream, came back, and by then we were hanging out at the OCA Friday night.
Yeah, and Mike and Kasha were kind enough to help me like set out all the stuff. I had to fold a bunch of shirts and stuff like that. So without them, wouldn't have gotten it done. Yeah,
it was a pretty crazy, hectic weekend, and it was really cool. Saturday, getting to meet some people. I actually got to sit in a talk on Saturday. That was fun.
I didn't get to see any talks.
And one of the really cool things, for those of you who are cichlid super freaks out there, you might know who this person is, but I listened to a talk by Odd Connings. He writes all kinds of cichlid books. He's like a hardcore cichlid person, scientist. And so I got to listen to his talk, and then they allowed me to film the bowl show while the judging was going on. And as part of that, I got to help out with just basically being a scribe, writing things down. But I got to be in the group with Odd Connings when he was doing the bowl show and he was doing the judging. That was really cool, because I'm the chair of our bowl show at the GCCA, and I'm a rookie when it comes to stuff like this. You know, I'm learning, it seems like every month when we do these shows, but you know, you're going with an expert, and the way they're just analyzing every little speck of a fish. You're like, well, you see there,
the third scale.
Yeah, the third barb on the dorsal fin. You see how it's kind of pointy there and it's not round? It's -5 points. I'm like, -5? So it was really cool. That was a really fun experience. So OCA, I can't recommend it enough. If you are looking for a cool place to hang out, it's real laid back. And so your favorite part was definitely all the hotel rooms with the fish in them, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Although it was fun walking around the booths, because I got some stuff there too.
Yep.
But next year, have to put it on the mental to-do list, especially if I bring my sister, because it's 15 minutes away, I hear, from the Christmas Story House.
Huh. How about that?
I know you're not a big fan. That's another great movie. for
I'm
Christmas
not
viewing.
a not fan. I'm just, it's not in my top 5,
You would
right?
think that would be right up your alley because it's some pretty wacky humor in there.
I'd watch it again this year. I mean, I usually
should.
watch it once a year, maybe once every couple of years. I might watch it again. I'm not against it. But it's just not going into the main, Christmas Vacation, Elf, Die Hard. Oh, by the way, Lethal Weapon. Absolutely, Lethal Weapon is in that. And then, Christmas Vacation 5 more times, a couple times more for Elf. So that one Christmas Story just doesn't make it into the thing quite as much.
C'est la vie.
The other thing that was cool about our trip is we saw, there's actually quite a few really, really cool fish stores in the Cleveland area. For those of you who live in that area, you are incredibly lucky to have all these stores. You're wearing one of the shirts, Plant Nerd.
That's right.
Aquatics.
Aquatics was amazing.
That was an awesome place. I was actually there. Kasha and I were there 2 years ago, and they had just opened up, and already you could tell this was going to be a cool place. They had just opened up, and just things look really nice. And we went back there again, and it was like, wow, the selection of fish! Oh my gosh, it was really impressive. Don't even look at me that way. You know what? Just go ahead, tell the story. Why are you looking at me that way?
I have never before left a fish store sad. Now, they were kind enough. I have a whole bunch of goodies. Very kind people. They're awesome. Liz knows them. It was just a great time, except there were 4 different kinds of fish that I wanted so bad, especially one of them. I wanted so bad for a very particular build. But he said, you should have brought stuff to get them transported back home.
Yeah, because when we went there, it was still, I don't remember, was it Friday night? Yeah, so we still had a couple days there. I'm like, I don't want to be, because we're going to be down in the area the whole time, and I didn't want to be worried about fish for 2 straight days. We didn't really have the setup, so I'm sorry. We'll find your fish. We'll take care of that at some point. But yeah, that was great. And then we went to Aquatica Aquarium Gallery. That's a lot of fun. That's a really, really nice place as well.
Yes.
So got some really cool footage from both of those places. Owners in both cases are really nice. So it was, that was really cool. We didn't get to see Something's Fishy, I think is the other one that I've been to before, and that's also cool. I was there a couple years ago, but so many cool places in the Cleveland area. If you ever go there and like you're not normally from there, you should just be like, tropical fish stores near me, and you'll see a bunch of them. Tesla Killdozer, thank you so much for the super chat. Aww. I agree, Jason. Die Hard is definitely a Christmas movie. Happy Thanksgiving. Well, thank you for agreeing. I agree with you. Yeah. And I hear that, most people would agree. 9 people out of 10 would agree Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Most gentlemen would agree.
I mean, they even say at the very beginning he's playing a Christmas song. Yeah, I just don't see how you can come to any other conclusion. I don't. I had another super chat. Thank you, Killer Kitty 08. Really appreciate it. I goofed. I put Rummy Nose in my Ram's Horn Snails tank to quarantine. I fed those snails to my pea and red eye puffers. If the Rummy Nose have ick, will that expose my puffers to ick via the snails? That's a really good question. Maybe. It depends on how it could. I mean, if the Rummy Nose had brought ick into the tank, could the ick parasite potentially fall? Usually they just fall off in the gravel. They don't really stick to much when they're in the gravel. So I think the likelihood that happens is pretty small, and especially if they ate the snails right away. Although they usually do spit out the shells. It's not like they consume those. So just keep an eye on them. The nice thing is puffers can, they can deal with salt. So you can really amp up the salt provided that those tanks aren't planted. If they are, then obviously you got a little bit more of an issue there. But the great thing is salt could definitely be your friend there. So I'm not as concerned when you've got puffers either in fresh water or brackish-ish water. If it's brackish water for your red eye, and I don't know, I haven't kept red eye puffers, so you have to excuse my ignorance, but if they are in any kind of salted environment, that's going to make it a little bit harder for the ick parasite to do its thing. So you have that going for you. So try not to stress too much about it. Hopefully it's going to be okay. This thing just skipped around me. Truth will out. Thank you so much. It's been a little while since I've seen you in the super chat or in the chat. Thank you for the super chat. I'm sorry you couldn't bring your fish home, Joanna. It's Jason's fault. Die Hard is not Christmas. It's action. Oh, man, we started a war. It's a war.
I have to agree on all those counts.
Truth will out. I'm glad you're here. Even though you don't agree with me, it's been a while since I've seen you in the chat. Thanks for being here.
Cheers. Ho, ho, ho.
Cheers to you. I've got my White Sox water cup here.
You didn't get it.
Yeah, I did.
Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun.
Yep. Famous quote.
Merry Christmas.
Yep. Poof. Merry Christmas. Okay, so yeah, that's the story there. The other one piece of news before we start getting into the questions is, and we can't give away just yet all the details, but
Mum's the word.
We've been doing the collabs lately, and again, thank you so much to everybody who supported that and watched it, and a lot of really positive feedback. We'll have another one of those videos. We've got 2 more that we're going to release. I think John from KG Tropicals has 4 more, and I just filmed a bunch of answers. Oh, by the way, Fishy Biz Aquatics just put one out today. So if you go to Fishy Biz Aquatics YouTube channel, he's got a big one. It's like 27 minutes long.
Really?
It was pretty cool. It was
boy.
3, and it was actually a harder question for me to answer than I thought it was going to be. It was like, what are 3 hardy fish? And so I had to think about that one for a while, because some of the fish that a lot of people think are hardy, I kind of consider them to have such horrible genetics at this point. I avoided them. So yeah, Fishy Biz put one out today. I answered questions for at least a couple other channels that are doing this thing. We've got some other channels that are going to be included in the next 2 that we do. So I've since reached out to a few more channels. So they're going to offer their opinions on our next 2 videos. But I think we'll put out the next one next week, possibly next Friday.
You better hope I don't get in on that and ask my own questions.
You can ask your own questions. You could be part of it. I mean, you're part of mine as the answerer. You can be the asker.
I already have my 3 questions that I would ask.
Oh,
and some
man.
of you might not be so happy about it, but you would have to answer them, wouldn't you?
We would have to. Well, I suppose so. I don't know if there's a way just to back out of the answers, but or we'll just give a really generic political, like a safe answer, like, well, I think both yes and no, possibly maybe. Just say a whole bunch of words without actually committing to anything. I'll have to work on that one. MNC Aquatics, I'll choose Lethal Weapon over Die Hard any day.
Really? Well,
okay.
I mean, classic.
Yeah, I can't argue that one. I like them both, so I'm not gonna fault anybody for choosing Lethal Weapon. Certainly, the entire Lethal Weapon series is better than Die Hard, because Die Hard's cool. Part 1's amazing. Part 2 is like, that's pretty cool. By the time you get to Die Hard 3 and 4, it's like, why did you do that? Why did you even bother? But when you get to Lethal Weapon, I mean, pretty much all of them are strong.
Okay, but what would you take if you had to take one? Die Hard 4 versus Lethal Weapon 3. Was there a Lethal Weapon 4?
Yeah.
Okay, then 4 versus 4.
Oh,
I know which one I'd pick. I know which one I would not pick. Let's just put that.
Like I said, yeah, it's once you get past Die Hard 2, it really goes downhill quick, man.
What, you don't think semi trucks can fly?
I don't know. They probably can. In the movies, they can. That's all that matters. Let's see here. All right, so we got Aaron asking a question. We'll start talking about some fish.
Sure.
Any suggestions on how to help my betta baby who has a new lump by his nostril that is roundish and raised, sort of red with blood? Doesn't look like injury. Now another bump is showing on chin. Well, funny, we should talk about this. One of the things that I didn't mention today as a good beginner fish is bettas, because I'm finding more and more of them are sometimes having issues, right? Like the common store-bought ones. I think, so I say that only because there could be a couple things going on there. It could be some type of a tumor. If you think it might be related to some type of parasite, then you've got like the Fritz Marison type products, 1 and 2, that might be able to help that with either bacterial or fungus. Most likely bacterial. Could be, although it could be a parasite as well. It's so hard. I mean, one of the problems when it comes to diagnosing fish disease is, 1, without seeing it, you have no idea. And 2, let's be honest, what a lot of people are doing is they're just throwing meds at it because they think, okay, this is external, so it might be bacterial, it might be fungal. Let's just throw these meds at it and see if it helps, sort of thing. Oh, well, you've got a fish that's got white stringy poop or is bloated. Let's throw some internal antibiotics at that. So it can be tough. Oh, look who's super chat. Thank you so much, Aquatics.
What?
Joanna, nice shirt. Let us know what fish you wanted. We will ship them out to you. Just got some scarlet Bettas, and Tiger Daniels, and also have a great holiday, you guys. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Don't tell her stuff like that because you're probably going to be getting. Yeah, we'll definitely talk. Yeah. You had some really nice fish there for sure.
Yeah, and awesome shirts. Yeah. I love this. It's like my newest favorite shirt.
And maybe we have a different one that I'm going to be wearing sometime and maybe not, but you'll just have to wait and see in future weeks.
Can't wait.
Yep. All right, let's see here. Darth Blunt Die Hard is definitely a Christmas classic in my house. And by the way, so is Die Hard 2, so you can flip that into the mix. Die Hard 2 is definitely, that happens. I mean, in fact, they even got Christmas presents in that one, so how can you argue it?
True.
And the guy even says, Merry Christmas, as he's giving him the ticket, right? Yeah. Let's see here. Frank A. Joanna, Jason's oh, don't give her ideas like this. T-shirt needs some lights sewn on it. Yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Heck
Sewing lights on the...
And it should be
No, you're not
bedazzled.
sparkling. You know, you're not putting glitter on my shirt.
Well, mine, when I wear mine, it's going to look a little bit different.
Okay. Well, that's good for you. Aaron says, I have a mature rainbow shark, about 5 to 6 inches, living alone in a 55-gallon. He hides in a small cave all day long and only leaves the cave at night. Is this normal behavior? It can be for some. It can be for some rainbow sharks and red-tailed sharks. 5 to 6 inch, yeah, you've got a fish there that's a little bit older, a little bit more confident. So living alone probably has contributed to that a little bit. The trick then is in the 55-gallon, you've got options. You can put fish in there. I would do fish that are primarily going to be all the barbs, you know, so with the exception of maybe cherry barbs, but your barbs are probably going to be good tank mates for a rainbow shark. So I'm thinking you've got, I mean, your tiger barbs, you've got your rhombo barbs, which we really like, your checkerboard barbs. What else? You could do, I just had one in my brain. The filamentosis, get a pretty decent size, 3 or 4 inches. They're pretty quick. So some of those more active types of barbs that are kind of, you know, not quite, a little bullyish, but that could certainly help. If he sees the fish swimming out and about, that could be helpful. I wouldn't put anything that's more docile. Like with rainbow sharks, red tails, I wouldn't do things like, oh, I'm going to put some platies in there or some guppies or some endlers. That sometimes gets a little rough. You might start to see some bullying that they can't handle. But usually some dither type fish that are just hanging out, that might be helpful.
Mark Herman says, I'm going to need to visit Aquatics. Have not been there before. You won't be sorry. That's all
Definitely
I gotta
worth
say.
the trip.
It is totally worth how many miles? A lot of miles.
What was interesting is a lot of people that were at the OC, a lot of them seemed to come from the general state of Ohio, and that was one of the stops they were making. Like, all right, we're going to make some. And it was funny because when we were at both, or when we were at the second one, Aquatica, we saw a bunch of people. You know, I think it's just what everybody does. Like, go to OCA, make sure you visit all the really cool pet stores there. And yeah, Aquatics has to be one that's on the list. No Name says, can I keep peacocks in a 75-gallon without overstocking the tank with peacocks? I can't always do a weekly water change, and I'm worried about an ammonia spike if I miss a water change. I don't think it's so. If your tank is established, I don't think an ammonia spike is what you're going to have to worry about if you miss a water change. It's just going to be an accumulation of nitrate. I mean, we've got in our tanks, we have, as you've probably seen in our videos of our fish room, we have some very heavily stocked tanks. So we have the Mbuna tank where that's a 75-gallon. That's probably got, I think there's 23 Mbuna in there right now. The 75-gallon right below it historically has been a peacock tank with at least 20 or so fish in that. The 125 that used to house the Oscar before he passed, that's now basically a peacock type tank that's probably got 25 or 30 fish in there. If I missed a water change, I wouldn't be worried about ammonia. I would be worried about, okay, how much are the nitrates building up? And I say worry, I'm not even worried about it. Just that would be what's accumulating. In a well-established tank, missing a water change should not contribute to an ammonia spike. It should just increase your nitrate concentrations a little bit. And the second part of that answer is, if you don't overstock your peacocks, especially if you've got multiple males in there, they are going to establish a pecking order. And if you've got maybe number 1 or number 2 in that pecking order that decides to really assert themselves in that smaller type of tank, they can wind up pushing fish into the corners, and the bullying gets a little rough sometimes. I actually find when it comes to African cichlids, there are gradients, and this is a video I'm going to do in the not too distant future and talk about the African cichlids as a whole, because I actually find the Mbuna cichlids to be some of the easier cichlids to keep, provided that you get the right types of Mbuna and you overstock those. It's just simple. To me, that tank is relatively easy, where the peacock tank to me is one of the harder African cichlid tanks to keep unless you're overstocked. And of course, the larger the volume, the better off you're going to be. How you doing?
I'm swell.
You got anything over there you want to talk about?
I do. Let's see. First, Nelena Allen says, finally, my first live stream. Welcome.
Glad you're here. Thanks for being here.
Enjoy. And then Delta Charlie, wants to know what I feed my Nano fish. Flake. Yeah, and if they're really tiny, just crushed up flake. Yep. Sometimes I give my shrimp, I always want to call it snowflakes, but I think it's snow pops.
Snow pops,
for some nice little treats.
Yeah, so we do Northfin Foods, and usually we switch off. When it comes to the flake side of things, we do community. We have the cichlid flake, we have the kelp flakes, and the krill flakes. And so we'll often just kind of switch between those. Obviously, for our Mbuna cichlids or anything that's going to be more of a plant matter, algae sort of fish, we tend to stay a little bit away from the higher protein-based foods, but for the most part, like our community tanks, we'll just switch between those. For the bottom feeders, they're getting the pellets, but the same thing we have the community pellets, cichlid pellets. We have the kelp wafers, which are pretty good for a lot of the bottom dwellers as well.
Baby brine.
Live baby brine. Yep. Oh yeah, especially in the Nano Nook. Yeah, for sure. So pretty cool. Dave from Iowa, Mary Page Flynn, thank you so much for being here. I thought I saw Wendy saying she's got some preparing to do, so she might be only stopping in periodically because
yeah, turkeys come first right now.
It's the time of the year when people get really busy. So
hi Mary Page, I enjoyed your last couple videos. They were super fun.
Thanks for being here. Let's see here. We're just going to scroll around looking for the stuff. Webhead. That's kind of funny. Webhead 15. How do I help my goldfish? He just lays in substrate due to tiny pectoral fin caused by injury. Fin looks healed, but very small. Breaks my heart. Please help. Well, let's see. I don't know if there's like anything you're going to be able to do about the pectoral fin. Just make sure of a couple things. One, make sure if it's a fancy goldfish, that can tend to happen a lot more frequently than, let's say, just your standard comic goldfish. It's one of the challenges with keeping some of the fancy goldfish is they tend to be a lot less mobile, especially as they get larger. So they tend to have a little bit harder time swimming, and they tend to tire out a lot faster. So if that's the case, the things that you can consider just so that you don't wind up with some issues later on, maybe some infections, is sometimes people with those larger fancy goldfish will go with a bare bottom tank, and that bare bottom tank is generally going to be kept very, very clean in terms of not having a lot of fish waste or food waste on the bottom. But other than that, I mean, just make sure that there's not a ton of flow, like side to side, horizontal flow, just so that it's not getting blown around and struggling there. So in that particular case, if you've got a hang-on back filter that's really, the return is really coming out fast, that can make it harder. In a case like that, when it comes to water flow, if you think it might be a problem, that's often a good time to think and consider sponge filters where they're going to be blowing, the bubbles straight up. It doesn't create a lot of flow where the fish are going to be struggling against it. So that's kind of what I would do with that. What do you have?
Filigree Aquatics says, my 2-year-old says, hi to Joanna. Happy Thanksgiving. Well, hi. I wish I knew your name. I would say your name, but hi.
How you doing?
Happy Turkey Day.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
What else? Let's see here. I'm going to just scroll around here. Cohen likes fish.
Oh.
Do you know how to get rid of hard string algae? I pull it out, but it sticks to the gravel, and then it grows right back. It sure does. So Yeah, like that green hair algae that's just kind of, you pull it out and it just keeps coming back because it can never really completely detach it. There's a few things I have found in particular with that algae. It comes from either the lights being on too long, the lights being too bright, and nitrates being too high. So any one of those three things or all of those things might contribute to that growing a little bit more. We've had issues with that before. We had a bunch of it in the top 125 lake tank you could take. Remember how it was just growing extremely excessively. We had it in our top 75 gallon. We had it in our 33 gallon long. Interestingly enough, I did find that it loved to grow on mineral rich surfaces. So you're saying gravel, that stuff loves to grow off of our flagstone that we put in our tanks, although it grows on everything. I mean, eventually it starts growing on the leaves of plants and on rocks and wood and all kinds of stuff. But with that, how did we get rid of it? I think one of the things that we did is in our 125, I lowered the intensity of the light because we have a couple of flue ball 3.0s. So we were able to lower that a little bit, and that helped. If you don't have plants, you're in better shape because you can really think about how long you're leaving the lights on. For us, our lights are on basically, they're on twice a day, but for a total of 9 hours throughout the day. I think it's like 2.5 hours in the morning and then 6.5 hours in the evening / night. So we have found that helps. There are fish that will eat it. In fact, we basically deploy our little army of Florida flagfish when it comes to the green hair algae. And in fact, right now, we have a group of 10 that I've split up. 5 of them are in one of our 20 gallon longs because there was some guppies in there and there was some green hair algae. I'm like, I don't want to look at that anymore. They cleaned it off within probably 3 days. The other half, which I will never be able to get out of that tank ever, they're in the top 75, that really heavily planted one that they had the Gymnogeophagus, and then right now they got the Geophagus dicryozoster and some rainbow fish. Well, that was starting to get some green hair algae, and I'm like, you know what? We'll put them in there. And then after I did that, I was like, I probably shouldn't have put all 5 in there. I probably should just put 1 or 2 because there's no way with all the rocks and the wood in that tank and the heavily planted nature of it, they're never coming out. So that's now their permanent home. So that tank will never have green hair algae again. No. But now I've lost half my army. I basically retired half my army doing that.
They're on permanent assignment.
Florida flagfish. The other, and this, some people find this to be true. We have found it to be true. Some people said it didn't work. And that is the Neocaridina shrimp. So like your red cherry shrimp, your blue dreams. I have deployed shrimp in tanks where there was some green hair algae and it went away. But some people have said, yeah, I tried that and it didn't work. It has worked for us. So lights, nitrates, try to keep your nitrates around 20 parts per million or less. That will certainly help because you basically starve the green hair algae. The other thing is use plant warfare. Yes. By that, what I mean is you get some very fast growing aquatic plants. And I think the easiest one, it grows fast, but it can also die fast, and that is hornwort. So we have used hornwort. I've thrown hornwort in tanks, and that stuff outcompetes most other types of plants for nutrients that are in the water, and it will compete with the green hair algae. It might not get rid of it, but it will make it a little bit more difficult for it to grow quickly. So hopefully one or all of those things are helpful. All right, let's see here. I'm scrolling down. You got something?
Let's see. Robert wanted to know snails, which ones we prefer, mystery snails or nearite. And I know which ones you're going to say. Mystery generally, because nearites will leave eggs on your glass.
Unless they're males. Yeah, I do prefer the mystery snails. I would say the consensus, in fact, we did a mystery snails versus nearite snail video, so you can check that out. It's like a 10-minute video. It goes into more detail than what we're about to say here. But the consensus generally is mystery snails are more active than nearite snails. I would say nearite snails have a very interesting pattern on their shells.
They do.
When it comes to algae, I find mystery snails to do an adequate job of algae removal in our tanks. But that being said, generally speaking, I would say if we're using mystery snails for that purpose, we add more than I think most people would think are necessary. And so that's part of it. So for instance, when you had the 2.5 gallons, we just chucked 1 of them in there. That volume was sufficient for the mystery snail, and it could deal with all the algae that might come about. If I had something like a 20-gallon tank, I might add a half a dozen mystery snails to that tank to keep the algae at bay, understanding that the mystery snails could potentially lay eggs above the surface of the water, and then you could wind up with more mystery snails. But the nearite snails, they're probably, if you were to just take one mystery snail and one nearite snail, the nearite snail might be a little bit better at eating the algae, but it's also less active, and yeah, you do get those eggs when they're just going around. So it's the downside. Leo, thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, y'all. Hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. You guys are the best source to order black or blue rams online. Well, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. So, best source to order black or blue rams online.
I don't know.
So, I don't know anybody in particular that carries them. I would say if I was looking for something like that, I would tend to lean towards companies that sell a lot of fish and ship a lot of fish online. And to me, that's usually the wet spot. I haven't used them. People who have generally have good luck. So understand, I'm not necessarily coming from experience with that recommendation. Just a lot of people have used them. They've shipped out. I mean, that's one of the things they do. They're pros at it. So the black and blue rams, that's where I'd go, the wet spot, because that's their job. They ship tons and tons and tons of fish. So you'll probably get support too in case something goes wrong or you've got questions. They would be able to answer those questions for you. All right, now the chat is all frozed up on me. That's a word, in case you didn't know. So hold on. Yep, hold on. So let me go back here and make sure that we're not missing stuff. Oh, all right, so yeah, this thing is all, I don't know what it is about this. Liz, thank you so much for the super chat. My tank has no lid. How low from the top should I keep it filled so that my betta can't jump out? I want driftwood to stick out of the top, but I don't want my betta to take a trip out into outer space. Happy Thanksgiving. Well, thank you so much. I don't know if you could necessarily lower it enough to keep it from jumping out. Those things can jump a lot higher, especially now. Keep in mind, if we're talking about the ones that you bought at OCA, those things really jump. I mean, it was. I'm sure you heard it too while you were sitting in that room.
In the bags.
We spent a lot of time talking with the guy. I feel so bad. I don't remember his name, but he had an entire queen-size bed filled with wild bettas of fish I have never heard of in my life. But all you hear is pop, 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 pop. It sounded like a popcorn machine because they would just jump, 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 jump. Wild bettas, it seems like. I remember with your Mahachai, those guys love to jump. We kept those covered. So here's what I would do. If you're thinking about keeping a piece of wood out of the top, because it looks cool, I would say when you're not going to be in the room, I would try to find the polycarbonate. So just get the greenhouse siding, get the 8 mil, I think it's the 8 mil polycarbonate, silicone the end so no water can get in there, but make a 2-piece, right? So make a piece and you can just cut this out with a hand saw or even maybe a pair of scissors. If you got a really strong pair of scissors and strong hands, you can cut out a piece and then just put the 2 pieces together so that it just leaves a space for the driftwood to stick out. It's not going to look great, but when you're not there, that is what I would do. Now, if you're sitting in your office and you want to just enjoy the tank, like, okay, this looks cool, then you can take those pieces off because if the guy goes, pew, you're probably going to hear that. But it might not survive the drop, unfortunately. But when I'm not around, I would just take those 2 pieces, slide them around, and then go that direction because those things are going to jump in. I don't think, like I said, I mean, they can, I don't even know, maybe 6 inches or so. At least, conservatively, they probably jump.
Yeah, unless
maybe
you're doing like a vivarium, and you have it literally half full.
Depends on the size of the tank.
Well, like
20 long is half full. It'll be 6 inches. They'd be able to jump that. They'd be able to escape that. Yeah, right out.
They'd be like, see ya.
Yeah, peace. You thought you could keep me in this 20 long? Not gonna happen. Oink Master Supreme forever. Remember, for 3 months now. That's pretty cool. Thank you for being here at Primetime Aquatics. I am honored to be a student to you both. Thank you always. On my 45-gallon Hex, what filter type would you go with? And lid is a 3-way split. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for being here. Thanks for your continued support and hanging out with us crazy fish people and being a prime time or prime time partner for these last 3 months. Okay, so what kind of filter on a 45-gallon hex? First of all, that's a really cool tank.
Sure is.
I'm jealous because I had my 35-gallon hex for a long time, and I missed that tank. So what would I do? That's a taller tank, right? So you got to deal with the intake. So your options are a couple of sponge filters, but you don't have a ton of bottom area for those sponge filters unless you wanted to put like a couple of Hydro 2s or one big Hydro 4 in the back. You could do that, and that's not a bad option. If you don't want to look at a sponge filter though, then I would just go with a hang-on back filter, but I would try to make it so that you've got a relatively long intake. Most likely what that means for you, if you've got a cutout in the back, which I'm assuming you probably do, if you have that cutout in the back, that will, and you got to be careful of how wide that pane is on the 6-gallon hex, right? Because you don't have as much space back there because you'll have a bend. So measure that out, and then what I was going to say is most likely like the Seachem Title 55, maybe I don't know if the Marineland Pro 375 will fit. That's a pretty wide filter, I think. So hang on back would probably have to be a Seachem Title 55 because I think it would be not so wide where you're going to have problems with the ends and the return. You could consider sponge filters because that way you're getting the water circulation a little bit more with such a tall tank. You could do a combination of both. Canister filter, I suppose, is fine. I'm not a huge fan of canister filters just because I don't like to maintain them. It's a me thing. It's not the filter, it's me. So I don't like to maintain them. Probably it's going to be in terms of looks and ease, given the fact that you've got that not weird shape, but the hexagonal shape, the non-standard shape. It's nice because you can throw the intake on one little part and then hopefully the return on the other, although it's not going to be separated that much given the fact it's a hex. Final answer for me, I might just go with the Seachem Title 55. It'll be quiet. If it fits on that pane, you have to measure it. If it doesn't fit, then you're really just left with canister filter and or sponge filters. So I hope that answers your question. We're oh my goodness. What is this? McLaren 123 1000. Oh my goodness, thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you for your service to the aquatics community. Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you. That's, wow. That was really nice. Appreciate it. Thank you. And not even a question. No, well, if you got questions, make sure you put them down there. And I'm sure, oh, Finn Wiggles is here too. Thank you for being here too. Hey, Finn. Somebody will make sure they highlight that question, but thank you. Really appreciate it. That was really nice of you. All right, what do we got here? What other questions do we have?
There was a question on substrate. Oh, this is from Mike Morales. I'm looking to get a tank soon, and I want to make a planted tank for my snails and tetras. Which substrate would you recommend for tetras and mystery snails? That's the only thing I don't know.
So tetras and mystery snails are the
inhabitants right
only
now?
Inhabitants.
And planted.
And planted. Mm-hmm. So my initial thoughts are, if I'm going to use a substrate with that combination, it's going to be sand. And it's not about the tetras. Tetras, you can put any substrate you want. You don't have to have a substrate. Any fish that's not interacting with the substrate at that point, it really doesn't matter. If I'm not going to be trying to dig in it or sand sift through it or interacting with it, it really doesn't matter. But, and it actually doesn't matter with the snails either. What does matter is when you feed the snails. And so what I mean by that is maybe you're going to put in an algae wafer or like the little calcium-infused calcium chips. What you don't want is for that thing to be sitting on gravel. The snails are going to eat, but they're not fish. They're not going to take that whole thing into their mouth and then just, kind of swallow it up. What they're going to do is they're going to graze, and that thing is going to start to deform and fall apart. And then the little pieces are going to get into the gravel, and that sometimes causes a water fouling issue. And now I know you got plants, so it's not as bad, but I would say in our tank, the tanks where we have bottom feeders with gravel where we have to feed them like pelleted foods, those are the ones sometimes where when you put the gravel vac in, you can smell the sulfur coming back up.
Yeah,
so
gross.
I would do sand. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just make things a little bit easier for you. For the plants, it doesn't matter. So I know it goes, people go back and forth on the internet about what's going to be really great for plants and what's not. And the bottom line is now, to be fair, we only grow mostly, I don't know, just standard plants, your Val, your Crypts, your Anubias, which doesn't even really interact with the substrate, sword plants. And for those common plants, it doesn't matter. They all grow well. It doesn't matter if it's gravel, it's sand, if it's a specialty substrate, because generally speaking, when we first plant them, we use root tabs. And so we put those root tabs around where the plants are growing, and that is more than sufficient. And then once the tanks are established, we really don't even do much of that either at that point. And then we're just relying on the fish waste to do their thing and really don't gravel vac that much in those tanks. So,
and then you said it's planted. So if you're actually putting the plants into the substrate like crypts, then you're going to want to put in root tabs, fertilize the substrate, right?
Yeah, we just said that.
Okay. All right.
You were reading, weren't you?
Huh?
Were you reading?
I was reading. But it was also, I was leading to something else.
Okay.
And then you made me forget it.
I'm sorry. But I'm glad that you said those things, because it shows
that was not the point. That was like the segue. And now I forget what the root tabs had to go. Well,
root tabs. You think about it. I'm sorry I cut you off. She's gone. Yeah. That's what happens when you're north of a half a century. What in the world? McLaren 123 went that. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you very much for the super chat. Wow. You are really thank you. I don't know what to say. It's a very special Thanksgiving. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here, and not just because of the super chat. I'm glad that you're part of our community. So it's awesome. And then he follows up here. They follow up. We have so much to be thankful for. I agree. I agree. There's a lot of things happening in the world, and it's cool when we get to hang out with you guys on Wednesdays and just talk about fish and hang out and talk about one of the hobbies we all enjoy. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you being here and reminding us. Yeah, there are things to be thankful for sure. M&C Aquatics, Lucas Brett says best substrate for plants is sand. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends, right? I mean, we've never had any problem with gravel. So if I were to pick,
I remember what I was going to say.
What? Go ahead, because I don't want you to forget.
Oh, I just wanted to say, if you are looking for black sand, Top Fin black sand from PetSmart is my favorite. I just wanted to, if you're looking for brands. And
we're not sponsored by Top Fin or PetSmart.
They don't know me.
No, they don't.
But
they should know you for all the times you mention that, however.
They should.
That and Green Neon should sponsor you too. I don't know if fish are allowed to sponsor people.
Is there a Green Neon association of like the world? Because if there isn't, I think I'm going to start it. That's a good sand. I like it because you can gravel vac it. You can kind of stick now with plants. It's not as important, but I do like sands that have a heavier grain, and you can kind of gravel vac it a little bit, and not have to worry about sucking it up in your gravel vac. The other thing I wanted to mention is, if I could only pick one substrate, it would be sand. And the reason for that is there are lots of inhabitants that either require it or do much better with sand. And I can't think, and maybe this would be a good question for our community here. Can you think of any fish that actually does better with gravel? Like just straight up, boom, needs gravel. Because I've been pondering this now for a while. Not excessively, right? I haven't been like impulsively pondering this question or even doing any research. But it has popped into my brain a couple times. And in the brief times I've thought about it, I cannot think of a fish where it's like, no, they would do much better with gravel than sand. Unless there's something, I don't know. I just haven't thought of anything off the top of my head. So I would probably always, if I'm just looking at if I had to do just one substrate for the entire fish room, it'd probably just be sand. It has its drawbacks, don't get me wrong, but I'm just talking about for general fish health or well-being. But yeah. Oink Master Supreme Forever, thank you for the super chat. Tank size for 4 mystery snail clusters I ordered coming in mail.
In your honor, I have named my fish rescue group after the Ring Fellowship, Lady Arwen.
Gosh.
That's so cool.
That's so fun.
That's awesome. Tank size for 4 mystery snail clusters. So are you talking about like egg thing, like a big egg cluster? Because if you've got 4 of those, and that's what we're talking about, that could be a lot of snails, a lot. I have done that in a 20 long. I don't recommend it. I probably would have preferred to have a 4-foot tank, like a 33 long. I know those are hard to find, but either like a 40 breeder, just to kind of give them some space, because what winds up, if that's what we're talking about, because you could be looking at a couple hundred mystery snails, if not more, probably more, and they're fine when they're like the size of your pinky nail and they're the size of your thumb, but when they start to get really big, they eat a lot. They take up a lot of space. They're messy too. Mystery snails they actually produce a lot of waste. I know when we did the comparison video, people were like, mystery snails are great, but you're basically, and this is true, you're exchanging algae for fish waste, which I'm okay with. That's a fine exchange for me. It's like, if they're going to eat algae and some of the the food that the fish haven't gotten to, and then they're going to convert that to a waste product, it's not a one-to-one thing. It's not like for every, I don't know, gram of algae they ate, they'd produce a gram of waste, because they're also growing. So it's like, all right, I'll take that trade where if they consumed, and a gram is a lot, but you get what my point. If they ate a gram of algae and they only produced a half a gram of waste, that's a ratio I'm willing to accept. But if it's just 4 mystery snails, 10 gallon is fine, for sure. But if it's 4 clutches, get yourself a 40 breeder or 4-foot tank. Let them grow. Because the other thing too is, once they get to reproductive size, if you want to breed those, then you could potentially have a lot of egg clusters on the top of your lids, or if you're lower in the water a little bit, you could have a lot of them.
Yep.
Leo, thank you again for the super chat. Where'd it go? What's your best setup for a Title 75 with a 40 breeder with Tetras and a group of L471s? That's cool.
Ooh.
Have a corner matin in it and want to add the Rams too. If I do, will they all be good together? Okay, so 40 breeder, Tetras. Part of it depends on the Tetras. So if they're not like the really snippy Tetras, and I'm thinking Buenos Aires Tetras can be pretty fin nippy. Sometimes the red eye Tetra can be pretty fin nippy as well. What else? So Tetras kind of along those lines. If they're more like your standard neons or even black phantoms and stuff, the Rams are going to be fine. Rams aren't going to probably mess with your group of L471s either. The only thing is, if you're trying to breed the L471s, you're going to want to get those eggs out of there if you see them, or even fry before they leave and wind up in the water, because then the Rams would probably eat them, because the fry are really tiny. You'd probably want to get those out if you're trying to breed them. But outside of that, I think the group would work just fine. The Title 75 on a 40 breeder is cool. The nice thing about that is it's an adjustable flow. So you can adjust that flow to whatever you think it needs to be to keep the fish from getting stressed. So yeah, that seems like it would work just fine. And again, the only thing I say about the Tetras is if they're fin nippy and you've got some of the Rams, once they start getting the long trailers, they tend to go after those a little bit. Not like they're going to gnaw your Ram fins down to the nub. That usually doesn't happen. But I don't know, there's just something about long trailers on fins. And I've had Bolivian Rams before. They had that nice long dorsal. Pretty. Remember that one in the 75 gallon we had? It was a big Bolivian Ram, and it was, oh my gosh, it was the best looking Bolivian Ram I'd ever had. But this was before my YouTube days, so I don't think I have it on video.
You don't even have a picture?
No, it was before cameras were invented too. So you combine those things, and I don't have it. So if I don't have a picture, did I really have it? I don't know. Fin Wiggles, thank you for the jump number one. Hold on. The number one fan jumping man. That's what it is. Whew, I almost messed it up. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So that's cool. All right, let's see. We're going to scroll around here. You got something over there? Anything that popped up in your little phone thing that you've been looking at?
Let's see. Oh, I think Amanda wanted to know a while back what tiny fish I wanted. at Aquatics.
It's going to be a surprise.
It is going to be a surprise because there were like 2 or 3 different tiny, like super uber tiny fish, but the 4 that were on my main hit list, I wouldn't really consider them that tiny. Big shocker to me too.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
But yeah, I can't tell you.
Oink Master said, yeah, I know. I have probably lost my mind ordering 4 snail clutches. Okay, so it is 4 snail clutches at once. Yeah, it's fine. You're doing the right thing. You're going to prepare for them. Do you need any more mystery snails? Nice. I should be getting purple, magenta, ivory, and tan. Ooh. All right, so wait a minute now. So here's the other thing, too. Do you want to keep those strains pure? Because if you do, then you might want to split them up. And if that's the case, then I would put a clutch in maybe each one in a 20. So I know we're getting complicated now, but if you're going to put them all together just because it's going to look awesome, and it is going to look awesome, then yeah, 40 breeder, 55 gallon, let them go crazy. If you want to keep them separate, start breeding them and not have them start mixing together, then maybe I would do force 1 clutch for every 20 gallon tank and grow them that way. And they'll still have a little bit of space to kind of spread out a little bit. So you have 2 options there, but that's going to be cool. Hey, this is why we're here, because we all understand why it might be cool to have 4 snail clutches coming in the mail. Be pretty awesome. All right, let's see. What do we got?
Oh, Vanessa, and I don't know if you're asking everybody or what, but you said Ember Tetras seem like a no-brainer. Would you do frosted background or black background with them? I would say black background. Wouldn't you?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Ember Tetras are one of those,
pretty colors.
yeah, but they're also one of those fish that they are influenced by the basically the decorations you have in your tank. So Embers get a really, really, really nice, deep, almost like a fluorescent-y, vibrant orange. I mean, you've seen it. We've done the Ember Tetra video, and they look really nice on a darker background. They lighten up a little bit. They still look really nice on a lighter background too, but they tend to lighten up a little bit. So it just kind of depends on how vibrant you want those colors. That being said, on a darker background, they do tend to darken up to a point where they can start to blend in a little bit with the background. So they kind of do that either way. Just depends on what you want to see. And the other fish that are going to go into the tank too.
True.
Yeah.
But Winkmaster Supreme Forever brings up a very good point that everybody should keep in mind. Green neons go with all colors, and they do.
All right, that's a good point. I will accept that point. Alex says, I got wild white clouds, pandacories, cherry shrimp, and odocats. Any foreseeable problems? White clouds, pandacories, cherry shrimp, and odocats. Probably the only thing that you will see is that the cherry shrimp babies will sometimes get picked off by the white clouds and even possibly the pandacories as they get a little bit older. But in terms of if you've got adult cherry shrimp with your white clouds and your pandas, and you give those cherry shrimps, maybe you've got some heavily planted area or you've got a place where there's some Java moss, you're probably going to be okay. I don't think they're going to pick off all the cherry shrimp. You never know for sure. Sometimes the pandacories can be, cory cats in general, as they get full grown, they might be like, oh, look, I just magically ate this thing. But adult cherry shrimp are big enough where they should be okay. Babies might not always survive unless you've got some hiding spots for them and they can get to a size where maybe they're not as easy to pick off. A tank like that, I would just make sure that my white clouds are decently well fed. Same with the pandacories. Odos are fine. They're not going to mess with anybody, and the fish combination is fine. What you got over there?
Oh, all right. So Killer Kitty 08 brings up a good question. If you leave all the snails together, will the colors end up going brown, just like shrimp?
Yeah, that's the one problem with shrimp, right? It's when you don't call shrimp. Actually, take a decent amount, in my opinion, some effort to keep their strains looking good. You really do have to call. You really do have to separate the brown ones that they start producing. And yes, once you mix them, you do wind up getting browns. As far as the mystery snails go, I have not mixed them and bred them on purpose. However, from the people I know who have, they do start to get not pure strain anymore, and so potentially less desirable if you want to start selling them. So that's why I would just keep them separated. Delta Charlie says, my Ember Tetras are almost clear. How old are they? Because that can happen when they're young, and certainly when they're on a lighter background, lighter substrate, that kind of thing. But usually as they age, they tend to get a little darker regardless, or as some people say, irregardless. But yeah, sometimes it just depends on their age and their size. Sophia, do shell dwellers like water flow in the tank? Not excessive water flow. You can do most of your standard hang-on back filters if they are basically turning the water over 5-6 times an hour. So if you've got a 20-gallon, you're throwing in a filter that's going to do 100 gallons per hour, you're probably in pretty good shape, somewhere around there, maybe 150 gallons an hour. Do they want to be just blown around the tank? No, because keep in mind, if you want the little babies to kind of do their thing and survive, they would prefer not to have to fight strong currents when they're leaving the shell. That's also something to consider, because a lot of times you will feed the babies little tiny crushed up flakes or live baby brine like we do. And if there's a lot of flow, sometimes the babies will starve unless you shut the filtration down while you feed. So high flow, no. Average is, I think, safe.
Okay, we have a long-time listener, first-time commenter. I'm sure you don't know who that is.
Oh, okay.
Just wondering what your ruling is on Gremlins as a Christmas movie.
Oh, dang.
That's a flashback.
Why do you gotta throw stuff out like that? So, Gremlins. I have not seen Gremlins in a while, but does that take place around Christmas time?
I think I
think it does, because isn't it when they're at the store? I seem to remember like a Christmas tree and stuff. We're gonna have to watch it. I think we're gonna have to watch it. Fun story, fun fact. I remember seeing that movie for the first time.
Really?
It was at the drive-in. Oh. When I was a kid, I lived in Romeoville, and they had a drive-in movie theater about 3 blocks away from my house, and I remember watching it there, and it was pretty cool. The downside is, I remember after that movie, I think the movie Life Force came on afterwards, and that was for that was for adults, and I remember being very scared. Like, I don't know, there was like a scary thing that happened. I remember being very scared, and then I just kind of sat there, and I was just like this, and I could hear the scary things, but I didn't watch the scary things, because then I found out later that movie was highly inappropriate anyway for a child to. Had I seen that movie, it would have been a very inappropriate thing. But so I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was 2 different drive-in experiences, but I thought it was Gremlins followed by Life Force, but maybe that was something else. I don't remember. But trust me, you don't need to watch that movie. It's just not appropriate, and 2, it's just a bad movie.
Life Force, not Gremlins.
Gremlins. Gremlins is fine. We're going to have to watch Gremlins again, just to be clear, because I'm going to have to figure that situation out and see, in fact, if it might need to go into the rotation. I mean, if there's Christmas stuff in there, it needs to go.
See, it's not just if there's Christmas stuff in there. It's after you're done watching it, are you filled with the Christmas spirit?
It's Gremlins.
Weapon? No. Die Hard? No.
Absolutely. Those movies have a great ending. Gremlins, I don't know. Everybody just gets eaten. Yeah. Like Master Supreme Forever says, yes, Gremlins is a Christmas flick. Okay, it's going into the rotation this year. We're gonna have to get it. Yeah. Gizmo is a Christmas gift. Duh. Yeah, it's been a little while.
Oh.
I mean, clearly we're not
what a cute little
good
name.
rememberers of this thing.
Gizmo's the good one, right? Yeah. Does he ever turn bad in there?
I don't know. Is Gizmo really the good one, though? Leo, thank you for becoming a primetime partner, primate, primetimer. Glad you're here. Thank you. Let's see here. PFC and AquaClear 110? For what? I probably missed the original conversation. Sorry. All right, let's see. I'm going to scroll around here. I'm looking for things. Any tips for someone new to the hobby looking to keep rams? Okay. Rams. Well, there are different types of rams, and I generally split them up into 2 groups. Bolivian rams and all the other rams, because all the other rams are, for the most part, somewhat similar. Bolivian rams, I personally, especially with our water parameters, tend to find them a little bit easier to keep. They don't have nearly the color that the other rams do. So you got the Bolivian rams. They tend to get a little larger than the other types of rams. I think they might be a little bit more, not aggressive, but assertive than other types of rams. And maybe others, maybe somebody here has had a different experience, but at least for the ones I've kept, they tend to be a little bit more assertive, not necessarily aggressive. Colors aren't as great, but like for us, our water is, somewhere around 8 to an 8.2 pH. Our water hardness for both GH and KH are approaching 200, so somewhere between 170 and 200. And we've always had good luck with Bolivian Rams, even in that harder water with a higher pH. We keep them around 78 degrees, and they live for years and years and years like that. For us, the German Rams, which is your German blues, and I think for the most part, you've got your electric blues, your golds, that kind of thing. You've got the bubble Rams and the long fins. All of those tend to do better with water that doesn't have quite as high a pH. And so now you're looking, okay, if you're in the low 7s or below, or certainly in the acidic side of things, those Rams tend to do a little bit better. There's water on the softer side, so where I'm kicking it, 10 to 12 degrees hardness, those other German blue type Rams tend to do better if your water hardness is in the mid single digit degrees, like maybe you're somewhere between 3 and 7 degrees water hardness. Can they go a little higher? Yes. Have people kept them at higher GHs and KHs and done fine? Sure. But I think that's kind of where their sweet spot is. I think temperature wise, especially the German blues, you're going to want to kick that temperature up a little bit. Maybe it's 80, 82. And so that's going to have an impact on the other types of fish that you keep with those Rams. So that's kind of a quick little overview on keeping of the Rams. Anybody else who wants to pipe on in with their wonderful experience, feel free to go ahead and do so. So,
all right, Fin Wiggles. Hey, Betta fans, my half moon has developed a bloody tinge to the edge of the bottom fin. I'm sorry. What can I do for him?
So there are the bloody tinge to the bottom of the fin. So that's the beginning of some type of infection. What are we going to do with that fish? One, is it laying on the ground a lot? So that, I guess that would be the first thing is there something else going on that's causing the fins to scrape on the substrate more than maybe it normally would? So that's thing number one. Thing number two is, are there any fish in the tank that could be sometimes taking a little snip, right? So maybe they're coming at it a little bit. Did I just ruin our connection here? Are we all right? Let me see here. Hold on. We want to make sure we're okay. Somebody tell me we're fine, because I'm getting the spinning wheel of death here.
Are you?
Are we all right?
Oh.
Are we still streaming? I know there's a delay, but I think we're still streaming. All right, so anyway, if you didn't hear all that, I'm going to assume you didn't hear all that. So one, with the Betta, make sure that there's not something else going on there where it's like laying on the, all good, okay, good, thank you. That it's not laying on the ground, all right, because of some other issue. Two, make sure that it's not scraping up against something, because we want to address maybe there's a cause there. Three, are there some other fish that is kind of scraping at it or nipping at it a little bit that could be causing some fin nipping issues that's irritating it in some way? Just check the water. And I know this sounds weird, but one of the things that we talked a lot about when I did my master's cert in aquaculture and fish health is we always start with the water, because we want to make sure that the water is okay before we start treating what could be a sign or a symptom of something else. If we don't take care of the root cause, then sometimes we treat something that isn't going to go away. So if the water's fine, nobody's picking on it, maybe it's by itself, there's no other signs of disease, then you can start looking at treating it with antibiotics, or yeah, probably antibiotic would be the way to go with that one. So antibiotics, meaning you've got your, let's see, your erythromycin, you have your Maricin products from Fritz, and there's two of them, and sometimes people just mix them and throw those in there because they're basically antibiotics with some antiprotozoal mixed in. So general cure might also be something to consider. So that's kind of how I would approach it. Hopefully that helps. Okay, let's see. What do you got there?
EJ Fish in 76 is here. Hey, Eric.
All right.
What's up?
What's up? What's up?
What's up?
All right, let's see. We're scrolling around. Valerie, just snowballing the chat with this question here and there. At what age size are molly fry strong enough to avoid a filter intake in the main tank? It depends on how strong that filter is kicking out. If it's really strong, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, I mean, molly fry are pretty big even when they're first born. So let's figure about 3/4 of an inch. You know, when you really they start to get like basically miniature mollies. 3/4 of an inch for sure. They're usually fine. Molly fry also tend to like to hang out at the top of the tank anyway. So it's not as much of an intake thing as it's going to be them being blown around by the return. So, but 3/4 of an inch is usually, in my opinion, they're pretty strong swimmers too. Mollies are no joke, man. They're robust little fish. That's a way to describe fish. Robust. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're good swimmers. Mm-hmm. Amanda, she's been a member for 9 months. Amanda Baker has. Thank you so much. Indoor ponds. Would you consider one?
Heck yeah, I would.
The only thing keeping us from having a big, rich size pond, i.e. known as a gigantic indoor pool with tens of thousands of gallons, is the fact that, well, we don't have one, and nor can we build one because we don't have the space nor the ability to do so in our living quarters. That's it. The worst thing that could ever happen is this young lady over here saying, you know what? I think we should turn the garage into a second fish room. If that ever happened, the same thing will happen to the garage that happened to her crafting area that used to be in the basement, which actually wound up in the studio, which is now the back half of the wall over here that you can't see.
Yeah, my workshop got taken over by tanks too.
You took it over, it. Those are your tanks.
I took over my own area.
Yes, you did. But anyway, probably within about 6 hours, I would have a garage that really doesn't even have the space to store cars. Somehow I would figure out a way to clear that out, paint the floors, do the walls up, paint the walls, and we would have massive. And the only thing that would limit us is the size of the garage itself. I mean, I think, that garage is probably 20 feet long, right, safely. Close. So, and we've got two 20-foot walls and probably a wall that's at least, another 15 feet before you hit the door. So you could imagine a situation that would go something like 20-foot long tank that's at least 4 to 6 feet tall and at least 3 feet wide on both walls. The back, I think we could do at least a solid 10 by maybe 6, make it more square, 10 by 6 by 4, with a big old tank in the center. And that one, I don't know how much space we'd have left at that point.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it would be basically, it would be massive volumes. I don't know how we would deal with it, but yeah. It's just space. It's just a matter of space. But realistically, an indoor, like a small indoor pond, the only thing that's holding us back there is we don't have enough floor space in the fish room anymore. Fish fan, 20-gallon long. Thank you so much for the super chat. I'm thankful for being able to learn from you. What is one fish you haven't had but would like to have regardless of how much it costs? Ooh.
Wow.
That's a great, great question.
Wow.
One fish I haven't had but would like to have regardless of how much it costs. Oh. Do you have one that pops into your brain?
Well, I don't know. Are anapleps expensive?
No, I wouldn't say they're expensive. I know you really like them. They're like the 4-eye fish. We saw them. They have them at by the way, if you ever go to the Cleveland area, not only do they have a bunch of really cool pet stores, fish stores, but the Cleveland Aquarium is really cool for people like us because I don't know about you guys, and I'm going to answer your question. I haven't forgotten. But what's really cool about the Cleveland Aquarium is for a lot of public aquariums, you walk in and most of it is saltwater. Now, that's cool to see. But if you're a freshwater person and you really want to see freshwater fish in a large tank, there are two places that do that really well. One is the Cleveland Aquarium, and they actually break it up by region. We did a fish, actually, I think I broke that up into like 2 or 3 or 4 videos where I focused on the freshwater side of the Cleveland Aquarium. And then the other one is the Wonders of Wildlife Aquarium in Springfield, Missouri. But those two are phenomenal if you want to see freshwater fish. What would I do? What fish really stands out? So I think if I could set up a tank, I would probably do a massive group. So it has to be a big tank of Ultim Angels. And I mean like the shockingly awesome Ultim Angels. I would probably do that, and it would cost an incredible fortune because I would want to do a tank that's hundreds of gallons and have dozens and dozens and dozens of Ultim Angels, and they would just be glorious. And in that tank, I would put some Kessel lights so you get the shimmering. And then I would probably add a bunch of really cool rare plecos, or at least higher, like more expensive ones. Like, you know, put some green phantoms in there. We've got some blue, and then these aren't super expensive, but some green phantoms, some blues. I saw the blue-eyed Panac at the. I actually saw a couple of them. One of them was in the show, so just some really cool plecos like that. Yeah. And it would be a ridiculously expensive tank, but it would be fun. And then with that, I actually saw that at Aquatic Clarity, they had the Ultim Angels, plus they had the Ivanacara Etoquita. Those are cool fish, and I'd probably put a big old group of those in there too.
I bet my pick would be more expensive than yours.
Really?
Yeah.
What would it be? Well, you said the Anableps.
I was just curious how much, if they're expensive or not. No. 1 million green neons.
Oh my gosh.
That would be amazing, but very pricey.
1 million of them, yeah, that would be pretty pricey. Okay, you got me beat. But what kind of tank are you going to put all the 1 million green neons in, like a 10?
I'd figure it out.
Just a 10-gallon tank. It would just they'd all just blend in.
That's like, a very green tank. Is that algae?
Yeah.
No, that's the green neon.
Something would go horribly wrong, and the 1 million green neons in a 10-gallon would all fuse together into one big, giant, massive. Could you imagine a green neon like the size of an Oscar, like a full-grown Oscar? That'd be crazy. That's what it would happen if you tried that.
Cool.
Oink Master Supreme Forever, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Guppies be okay with my 4 split-up snail clutch tanks? Yeah, probably. I don't see why not. I think because we've got snails. We've got mystery snails in with guppies. No problems. No problems at all. All right, let us see. Levi's Aquatics is here. Hi from Springfield, Missouri.
Hey.
You're in a cool place then.
Oh, you're lucky.
Have you been there? Have you been to the Wonders of Wildlife? Do you go there every day? Because if I lived there, I'd probably get an annual pass. They have to sell it, right? I would get like the frequent goers pass.
Oh, I bet you would.
Yeah, I would just like flash my card. Like I frequently go here. Here's my card.
They'd be like,
they just
again.
wave me in. Be like he's here
every
again.
Day.
Yeah.
Every
it's
day.
Like, do you want a job here? You can actually earn money. No. I just want to sit here and stare at the tanks. I don't want to have to do stuff. Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. Jay Hauser says green terrors. Green terrors are cool. Really, I show one in the video today. If you like green terrors, if you've seen the video today, you'll like that one. Let's see here. Delta Charlie, what are some good Thanksgiving? Now, that's a great question. What are some good Thanksgiving movies besides planes, trains, and automobiles?
Oh, that's a good one.
Are there any other good Thanksgiving movies? Huh. That's a great question. Why aren't there more movies that center? Oh, well, you got Thanksgiving Charlie Brown.
Oh yeah.
So you got the
True,
special.
but it's not as good as the Christmas one, and it's between the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown and the Christmas one.
And
so
plus it's only 20 minutes, so you have to watch it like 8 times in order to get a movie out of it.
Yeah. Thanksgiving movies. That's a great question. I know there has to be one because I'm sure some movies start with like the season, so they start with Thanksgiving and then go to Christmas. Does While You Were Sleeping start with Thanksgiving? No, I don't think so.
Why would that pop into your head?
Because it's also a holiday. That's kind of a Christmas movie.
All right. Well,
it is a Christmas movie. While You Were Sleeping. There you go.
So we got Nilania. I hope I'm saying that right. Received 12 shrimp in post. 3 days later, I only have 3 left. Soon to be 2. Great water parameters cycle tank. Watch 3 twitching and succumbing. I don't know. What did I do wrong? I need advice. Well, that stinks. I'm sorry that happened. 12 shrimp. So what kind of shrimp? Because that matters. Because the Neocaridina and the Caridina shrimp have very different water parameters. So it just depends on which one. So maybe just another quick little note of what type of shrimp did you get, and we'll try to make sure we see that one so we can answer that question.
Carbon Really.
Carbon Really. So, and I'm not a shrimp expert. I wish Rob from Flip Aquatics was here, but I thought, don't the carbons need softer water? They're more soft water, lowish to neutral / lower pH.
I think so.
Those, yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with the carbons, so I'm not sure. Have we kept those? Did we have those at one point? I don't remember. But yeah, those are ones that generally like it a little softer, a little bit lower pH. So if you were matching the water parameters, I don't know. Maybe they were, how long did, you said 3 days? Was it 3 days they were in the bag? No, I lost the thing. But yeah, sometimes they don't always ship the best. So I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I wish I could help you there. Leo, thank you for the super chat. So email the wet spot for a group of 6 104 shipped, but what worries me, ask them and they keep them around 74. Isn't that too cold for German Rams? Yeah, that's cold. But also keep in mind, I don't know how long they're keeping them at that temperature. So how long are they bringing them, how long is it taking to bring them in and then turn around and take them and ship them back out? The other thing too is ask about their policies. How long are they willing to guarantee the fish? Is it just if they show up and they're in trouble? A lot of places, if they ship, if you show them if something shows up dead and you take a picture and show that to them, they will certainly either give you credit or ship other fish or give you your money back. If it's 2 days later, what happens? I don't know. So yeah, that seems cold. 74 for German blue rams is not ideal. Can they survive that? Probably. Would they be more? I don't know. That does seem a little bit low. It's a good point. Okay, let me see. Oop, passing up stuff. And then I went too far. Way too far. We'll answer a few more questions. Let's see here. What do we got? Mark says, will a group of Caudal Punctatas do well in a 55-gallon planted tank? Yeah, I don't see why not. 55 gallons, plenty of space. The Neolamprologus Caudal Punctatas, they are rock sort of dwelling type fish in the sense that they do like a lot of rock. If you want them to breed, they're going to need some rock work. I always put shells in our Caudal Punctatas tanks, not because they're going to breed in them. They're not true shell dwellers. But what winds up happening sometimes, and I've watched this happen in my own tanks, is the parents sometimes will kind of move the fry around shells, and sometimes the fry will hang out in shells. So it's not that they're going to be breeding in them, but they do like that structure, I found quite a bit. But at 55 gallons, plenty of space. They're not going to mess with the plants. They're not really diggers. The only time that I've seen them even dig even a little bit is right around the rock. Sometimes they'll dig a little over there, but they're not diggers like other cichlids are. Midoriya, thank you so much for the super chat. What fish did you realize was a totally different thing when you saw it in person? That's a great question. What fish did you realize was a totally different thing when you saw it in person? Well, I guess there's a couple different ways to look at that. One is like just looks in terms of like surprising color. And that's probably the reason why I said the Ultim Angels earlier, because you'll see them in pictures, and the pictures are weird because sometimes what will happen is you see these pictures on the internet and the fish look really great, and then you realize somebody has jacked up the saturation on those fish to a point where they're just completely unrealistic looking, and that can be a little bit disappointing when you buy fish based on some pictures you've seen on the internet and realize, wow, someone was just playing with let me put the saturation up to 100 to make these look a lot cooler than they are. But to me, really pretty Ultim Angels under the right light do show a ridiculous amount of awesome color. Other fish that were different when I saw them in person was more due to size. I've seen, in fact, just this weekend when we were at the Ohio Fish Rescue, sometimes you'll see people talk about fish where it's like, these are big, they can get to a certain size, and you're like, okay, I've had these fish, they get 12, 13 inches. They don't get, I don't ever see them as large as 15, 16 inches. But I saw at least a 15-inch Oscar when we were there. I mean, that thing was absolutely massive. Biggest Oscar I've ever seen. Wow. Tinfoil barbs that were every bit the 16-ish inches as well, if not larger. Iridescent sharks that, you buy the iridescent sharks that are like, they're basically 3 or 4 inches. They shouldn't be selling those fish in pet stores unless you have a multi-thousand-gallon tank, because then you see them and they're like it's not just the fact that they're about 30 inches long. It's the fact that they're probably 14, 16 inches tall and at least that wide. I mean, they're massive, massive fish. So very different when you see them in person compared to when you see them on the internet. What do you got? Anything that you've seen where like, wow, that was a lot different than I expected?
No, but Mark noticed my shirt, and yes, they are great people. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And different in person. Not that I can, not off the top of my head.
Mascara Barbs were another one. When I saw those at Lucas's fish room when we went there a couple of years ago, those showed, I mean, they show a lot of color on TV, but they showed a lot more color in person. I remember being just absolutely mesmerized by the tank. I think that was probably my favorite tank. And he has so many cool ones. It was one of those things where you walk around, someone's got 300 tanks. There's a lot to see. But when I stopped at that tank, that was one I just had to watch because it was cool. And I believe that was the same tank where the blue Gularis, I can't say that word, Gularis, thank you very much. The blue Gularis was. That was a really, really, really pretty fish in real life. So
better watch it. Fishy Biz is in the house.
Fishy Biz is in the house. Like
it's
I
cracking.
said, Fishy Biz put out the video today. The YouTube video about the 3 hardiest fish. So you can check that one out. Christopher, thank you for the super chat. What's your opinion of using a 29-gallon tank setup as a Peninsula tank? Peninsula. I cannot talk. I think I'm coming to the end of my ability to speak. Coming to the end of my ability to speech. As a Peninsula tank with regards to adequate water flow. Thanks. I don't see why not. In fact, most, believe it or not, I think most tanks would actually work better if your hang on back is a hang on the side. Just because it has more ability to flow outwards, or if you're doing a canister filter, to point that return lengthwise and have it do kind of like a gentle, you know, kind of go out the length. So yeah, I would say a tank like that, a 20, a 29, sure. I probably work out better. You probably get better circulation doing that. What you got? Anything?
Well, Cheryl Balot is here, and she's from Waukesha. So lots of prayers for Cheryl and her fine city of Waukesha.
Yep. Definitely you are in our thoughts and prayers for sure. Lots of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Danny says, loved that simple fish keeping video, Drew. Yep, it was good. A lot. And what's cool is when you watch the videos, so far we've put out one, KG Tropicals put out one, Drew put out one, Fishy Biz, and we've all got some different people doing the contributions. So you're getting a really wide range of opinions and people, and it's cool. I like it a lot. McCoy, morning prime time. I asked you about the Green Phantom stickers posting to England on Instagram the other day. Hope you're both well.
Yeah, those were stickers that I bought at the show. It was, and I don't know what kind of online presence they have. I'm not really quite sure at all. I don't think there was anything listed. Maybe Facebook. Pleco Hotels and Accessories. I think that's the company name. But yeah, I had purchased those. I'm not selling them. That would be great though, because they're pretty sweet.
Yeah, they are cool.
And they're already stuck on everything.
Yeah, you have
binders
to
and notebooks and
check out Aqua Pros. He's like the sticker person. He's got all kinds of stickers. Aqua Pros.
Got lots of cool stickers.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. I think he's pretty much made a sticker of every known fish. I don't know where he stores all these things because
he hasn't done green neons.
He's done regulars,
but he hasn't done green.
Bust out a crayon, you'll be fine. All right, so Greg D, what is best filter heater light for a 75 planted angelfish community tank? That's a good question. So 75 gallon, because it's a 4-foot tank, I really like to do double up on stuff. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but when you're dealing with a 4-foot tank, at least in terms of circulation, making sure my water is all the same temperature, I would do 2 smaller hang-on backs, 2 smaller heaters. In terms of light, there's a dump. So let's go with the light. There's a bunch of different ways you can go with the light on a 4-foot tank. If your plants are high light, then you're going to do well with doing something like a Fluval 3.0. All right, that's one of the better lights out there. They're expensive for a strip light, but they are definitely going to give you a lot of features. They're going to be very bright. So that is one way to go if you really want to go hardcore. We've got a couple Kessel lights. The Tuna Sun Kessel lights, very expensive. Those things will run you $700 easy before you're done with just the lights. You step down, you go to the Fluval 3.0, still a great light, still going to give you the ability to run mostly medium to high light plants. If you don't want to deal with that, then you can go down another notch. You've got the Phoenix Stingray 2, which is a pretty nice light. It's going to be a little bit less expensive than the Fluval. If you don't want to deal with that, then you're kind of dealing with one of my favorites is the Higer lights. They've got a planted light, and they've got even the standard one. I really like the light spectrum. And so when you're getting down to that lower price point, those are pretty good. The Night Crew lights are kind of like the same spectrum. Again, those are lower, more budget-friendly lights. So those are some of the options there. When it comes to filters for a 75-gallon, with Angelfish, you don't want a ton of flow. So this is why I say, especially in this particular case, I'd prefer to have 2 filters, probably something like a couple of Seachem 55s. One on each side. I can adjust that flow however I want, just to make sure your angelfish are not being blown around. And then right near the returns of those filters, I would probably put a couple of heaters. Typically speaking, with the heaters, you want about 5 watts, 3 to 5 watts per gallon. So total heating capacity, you're looking at let's just say, what, 150, 300, so maybe let's say 300 watts. So a couple of 150 watt heaters. Now, here's the thing with the 150 watt heaters. My preference would be to plug those both into an external thermostat that registers the temperature of the tank. And then when the heaters need to turn on, that thing turns on both heaters so that they're always working in tandem. Because otherwise, when you run dual heaters, what happens is sometimes one heater will run and the other one won't, even though you set them both at the same temperature, one of them will run, one of them will be like, oh, it's just still okay because that heater's doing all the work. Kind of defeats the purpose. The heaters that we've been using in our fish rooms, when we have heated tanks, and there are very few at this point, are the Eheim heaters. I have heard mixed reviews. We love them. They've never done us wrong. Some people have said, at least lately, they haven't been as great. But especially with the Eheim heaters, I do not rely, I've said this a million times, I don't rely on heaters to tell me the temperature of the tank. So if I set any heater at, I don't care if it's digital, if it's got the little turning knob like the Eheims do, if that heater tells me that I've set the tank to 78, you can rest assured I'm using a separate thermometer to see what the actual temperature is. So that would be my setup for a 75. So hopefully that helps, answers your questions. What do you got over there?
I don't have anything at the moment.
Okay. We'll do like 1 or 2 more, and then we'll call it a night, because I know a lot of people have got a lot of things to do in the morning, and we want to make sure you all get good sleep for the big day of eating and stuff. I just realized that I would be impossible to make sure that both tanks get equal amount of water return. Guess it's 2 filters. All right. Greg D. Holy cow, thank you so much for the info and answering my question. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Sophia, I'm contemplating turning my garage into a fish room in South Florida. My garage can get pretty hot, 82 to 83 water average. I had a cup of water in there for a few days. That's good. That's good that you've tested it. So if you're, but this is also a small volume too. So sometimes tank water doesn't necessarily get that warm because it might cool down at night and then warm up a little bit during the day. But it is something you have to consider, obviously. If your water is that warm and you wanted to, I mean, you could do, there's plenty of warmer water fish. I mean, you could have a discus fish room. You could have, going back to the German blue rams, there's a whole bunch of really nice, like rare type exotic plecos. There are some cory cats, believe it or not, that like it that warm. So there are some options if you got it up that high. So, Zachary, any thoughts on whalefish? Yeah, I haven't seen those in a long time. The last time I saw the whalefish, I don't even remember what the actual fish is. I saw them, we were at a pet store in Wisconsin a couple years ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen those since I was a kid. They don't do well. From my recollection, they don't really do well in the home aquarium. Most of the time, they don't last very long. From my recollection, and I am speaking from someone who hasn't kept them in decades, they were hard to feed, and I don't remember why they didn't do well. There was something about the water parameters. I don't think they do well in standard water parameters either. So they were really finicky, but You could try them, but you really have to do a lot of research. But I don't remember them doing well. Scrolling up.
Clint Walker is in the house.
Clint's here. Oh my gosh.
What?
Dude, where you been, man?
Dude, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Gobble,
Thanksgiving.
gobble, gobble, gobble.
Happy Thanksgiving. Alice B, can I have a power head instead of an air bubbler? Will the power head add enough oxygen to move surface of water? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why people do the power heads, because it's breaking surface tension, right? So it's the air stones will do that to a certain extent. The whatchamacallit, oh my gosh, it's getting late. The power head does that too. So it's just keeping the air exchange going, allowing CO2 to leave, oxygen to diffuse. You just got to make sure that the fish that you keep are going to tolerate that more water flow. All right, everybody.
Oh, last question.
Last question.
PFC Magic likes the shirt. Are those new?
Yes, they are new. So they are limited edition.
Very
and
limited
I think we're like already half sold out. But yeah, they are new. They're going to be around hopefully until Christmas time.
Mm-hmm. Although I think that the post office is saying that to guarantee delivery by Christmas Day, not that you'd have to have it by Christmas, but I think it's December 15th. That's what they're saying.
That's the final day, huh?
That is the final day.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our moderators, Mary Page, Finn Wiggles in the house.
Dave.
We had Dave here, so thank you for keeping up with everything. Thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great weekend. Hope you guys have a wonderful time. We will be back. Same time, same place, next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Hope to see you there. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Ending the thing.